You're dismissed. Welcome to Task 1 of the Insurance Apprentice Season 3. Did you all unpack? Why? You do realize that after today, it's highly likely that one of you will be leaving. But I do like your confidence. Today's task is sponsored by Marsh, and we're very fortunate to have Riette Fern here with us. Over to you, Riette.
Thank you very much, Simon. Good morning, apprentices. Very happy to see you here. So today you are a short-term insurance broking firm and you have a client with a particular challenge concerning their insurance renewal coming up now in April for their assets and business interruption cover. The insurer essentially has given you notice of cancellation, and there are some risk improvement recommendations that have not been completed by the client, which was a requirement of the insurer. So you need to go through all the detail and come back to us with a solution for the client, and you'll have that in a live interactive session with the client. It is not an easy client, it's a challenging client, and it's obviously a client who's in distress.
Thank you, Riette. Vuyo, do you have anything to add to that?
Thanks, Sir Simon. Good morning, apprentices. I just want to say, just because it's task 1 does not mean it's an easy task. It's actually quite a tough one. What we're looking for is how you address the challenge, but also your interaction with the client. So think about that. During the course of the day, we'll be observing how you work together to actually reach that solution. Good luck.
Thanks, Vuyo. We'll be splitting you into 2 teams for today's task. And in Team 1, I'd like you to come up with names for your teams as well, please, during the course of the day. Team 1 is Nick, Kabelo, Palesa, and Keith. And in Team 2, we've got Mutoda, Sicelo, Lisa, and Kurt. You'll have 4 hours to complete the task, and then we'll go into the presentations back here in the boardroom. Good luck, and you're dismissed.
We're due to meet with the client shortly, and the client apparently is very difficult to deal with. And as a group, we need to come up with some ideas and solutions.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chester, and I'll be the risk manager for large packaging and paper recycling. We've had a lot of issues. I've had fires 5 years ago by the nature of my operations. So it is deemed as a hazardous operation. So I've got fire suppression systems that are not up to scratch. They're not up to SANS standard, but they do work very well. But obviously, because of CAPEX issues, we're still trying to get to that level. So I need to present a board for my assets and business interruption cover. So we need to find the balance between, the pricing and the cover.
It's quite a challenging task, if I must say, because the situation that was presented, it's a critical one that can even mean the end of the life of the company, of the client, if no proper solution is found by us.
The task is, I wouldn't say a typical client challenge, but it is definitely a challenge that every broker will have at some stage or the other in his life, where he needs to deal with a difficult situation with a client where he's got to go and give bad news for a start. and then work with the client to come up with solutions that are workable, that's acceptable to the client, and that they could eventually also sell to the insurance company and get their agreement.
Some of the apprentices didn't understand the brief. So, I mean, there was a lot of assumptions that were made. Some of them obviously thought it was a renewal presentation, whereas it's obviously to go highlight the issues to the client and obviously the challenge that the insurers obviously want to come off risk. But yeah, look, after a few discussions, obviously everyone then, understood what was expected of them.
No, I think it was just
It's very interesting with the dynamics with the team, because we're all trying to find our feet. It's the first time we've been in a formal task, so everybody's still trying to assess how we work well together. But it's been difficult because everybody's trying to take the lead. Lisa talks a lot, Kurt talks a lot, so Stella now and then would want to come through and not been given a chance. So you can see that over time the tension has been building because of just hogging the speaking space. Everybody wants to talk. Initially it went along very difficult. A lot of egos in the room. Everybody trying to impress their point and bring it across very strongly. Look, Lisa's in our team and wanted to take ownership of this challenge off the bat. She believes she's very strong in it. And that was a challenge for the group. I think once everybody settled down and realized that it became critical to work as a collective. And at the end of the day, if you don't win this task, you're next on the line. People begin to understand the importance of collaborating.
We're quite a diverse team. We bring very different perspectives. So, initially we were all pulling in very different directions, and we've all kind of come together.
We have been discussing, and I like the mix of characters in our team. I think about 2 guys are insurers, 2 guys are brokers. So there's a balance there. So the points are coming from different angles.
I think I personally bring to this task 2 different perspectives. I've worked for a broker for 9 years, so I know working with a broker facing a client, knowing what questions a client will ask and what a client will throw back at you in terms of capital expenditure and where they come from, as well as now working for an insurance company and knowing what an insurance company will accept and what they won't.
The person who's finding their feet the most, I'd say it is Stelo, purely because of his laid-back nature. But when he does open his mouth, he does come up with good things. He's finding his feet, but he's concrete.
My main objective is not myself shining. That is the secondary one. The primary one is to make sure our group wins. And that means each person has to be given what they are good at, and they will shine, and the group will win.
The team dynamic is good. We are a balanced team. Each member is contributing positively toward the task. And I do think that there's more pros than cons to my team. And I'm actually quite excited that I was placed with such a great team.
Kabelo and Keith are actually very dynamic. They're coming up with a whole lot of ideas. And what's nice about the team is that when the ideas are being thrown, there are others, myself and Nick, who are listening and then questioning. So it's not just everyone throwing ideas at the same time and there's no one analyzing it.
Certain subjects tend to come mostly from 2 people. In this case, I would say Kabelo is more of an elaborate type person, so she extends on to explaining a certain point. So the point may be relevant, but you only need to explain it so much. Keith tends to always try to bring sort of his point across, and it doesn't take rejecting his point very well initially, so he'll try and defend it a couple of times, which is really unnecessary. Ultimately, we want to get the job done and not necessarily satisfy egos around the table.
Nick's adding value. He's quite balanced in his approach. He's very good at bringing us back to points and creating some balance as we go through the task. Kabelo is very good at adding points and taking notes and creating a nice summary of what we discussed. And Paleso is also adding value, but I think in terms of team members, she's probably the weakest link, as she seems to be taking a lot from us as opposed to vice versa.
What I'm bringing to the party is the questioning, because what might sound like a good idea is not necessarily the best. Listening is a key factor as well, because it also means that you're going to listen to the clients. Sometimes you do not want to jump to conclusions. So it might appear passive, but doesn't necessarily mean it's non-effective.
So in terms of this task, I think it's going so far so good. I picked up that we're not all technically strong as far as the specific policy we're supposed to be discussing is concerned, but our collective insurance involvement in terms of our roles that we play for the different companies we work for has come to the fore, and we're managing pretty well.
Our group has got an advantage over the other group that doesn't have brokers, because that combination of insurer and broker in the same group, it means that we understand the situation better, because the situation involves an insurer who has declined to renew a client, and on the other side, a broker who has to go to a client and explain the situation. So now, in our group, we've got those two, then they're coming together.
In our team, we don't have any brokers. However, we do deal with brokers, and we are trying to work on the assumption of our interactions from an insurer to a broker. It would reciprocate to the same principle as from a broker now speaking to the insured.
I don't think that having two brokers on one team gives them an advantage. I think what's more important is that the teams actually understand how to interact with the client. What I found is that both teams have got quite technically strong people who've been in the insurance business. So if they use that as the main skill set, they actually should be able to work together. And really, client interaction doesn't matter whether you're a broker or a claims person. You just need to know how to deal with a customer, especially an unhappy customer.
So guys, you don't have another option in terms.
Well, right now we need to work on our presentations, and from there we'll see on how everyone delivers, because there's a difference between doing a presentation on paper as well as doing it in front of a panel.
We're coming up with some good solutions that I think the client should be agreeable with as we present to the insurance company.
As a team, I think what we've done well is elicit as much information as we can in a very tactful way from all the sources available to us. I believe that's a key strength.
We've gone from thinking very creatively to coming back down and thinking a little bit more realistically about what we're going to do. But I think we've got a good handle on what we're going to do going forward.
If I had to choose whether there's a team that stands out at this point in time, I would say the team with Matodo, Zitkelo, Lisa and Kurt. I just think from the energy and the activity that I pick up from them, they're looking at all sorts of different options, where I think that team with Nick, Cabello, Palesa and Keith are maybe sticking more to traditional solutions rather than thinking more innovatively at this point in time.
I think the nerves set in when you realize that what you bring is going to be compared to the other group, and if you're not good enough, you're going to have problems.
What is important is that they remember that they are the broker and not the insurer, so that worries me a little bit. I do also worry about the fact that they might not be getting the executive summary right. So that's what we need to watch for as judges.
I think we've got a very, very strong team, and I think we can win this.
I think we'll beat the other team, if I can say it simple and short. The other team is already out.
I think we're going to do well. I think we're probably going to win this thing. I think we've looked at all the aspects of the risk. Probably some things that I think the other team has probably missed out on as well.
We are handling the task quite well, and I do believe we have a winning team.
Well, welcome back. You've had 4 hours to prepare for this task, so I trust you've prepared something amazing. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors for the task, Marsh, and of course Riette and Chester for devoting their time today. And you were asked to come up with a name for your group. What have you called yourselves?
Expert Risk Solutions.
All right, I'd like you to start with your executive summary, please.
Thank you for meeting with us this afternoon. Before we get going, we have an agenda that we'd like to stick to as we go through today's meeting. Thanks, Nick. So in terms of the policy that you have an assets or risks policy with the business interruption section. And just a brief summary in that regard, the assets or risks policy provides cover for your property, excluding your motor, and any liability. And the business or risks section provides loss of profits following damage as a result of fire under your assets or risks policy.
Could you go straight to what the problem is here?
So as it stands, an insurer issuing a notice of non-renewal is in essence the same as being blacklisted. And in the insurance world, being blacklisted makes you a bad risk.
What do you mean they're not going to renew the policy?
So what we were about to do is propose to you the solution we think is appropriate for this type of situation. So you mentioned that you have spent some money to implement some of the recommendations. That has been acknowledged, and we will discuss that.
Well, it doesn't feel like it.
Unfortunately, we agree that you've spent money, and the insurers have seen that. However, when they took on this policy last year, there was a list of requirements that they required. And unfortunately, you haven't complied with all of those as yet.
Given the nature of the situation, sir, and the fact that we need to correct some of the prior issues that have gone wrong, we are now offering to do the valuation so that going forward, there won't be any more issues in terms of under or over insurance. So it was not a past offering. Our valuation systems or offering is at a price, but we'd like to meet you halfway at the situation. It is quite an extreme situation, especially with the insurer giving the notice of non-renewal.
That could possibly conclude the insurer to say that they can exclude fire cover. We're going through all the possible options that we have, and just to illustrate to you that there are different avenues that we have taken. So we have said that we are not going to go down that route.
Has not considered my business profile and what is required.
We are of the same feeling.
Which is one of the reasons that we strongly advise not to do that. So there are further options for you, which my colleague will highlight.
Okay, thank you for your time. So I will be given what my clients have said.
You actually haven't introduced yourself. You haven't told me who's who. So I'm curious to say, I mean, here's a big term. I mean, who does what?
Excuse me.
Look, I think we're just repeating ourselves. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and that's all we have time for today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're dismissed. I don't know, those guys just didn't sell me. You know, it was quite painful, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't sold either.
Great.
I didn't think they made good use of their documents as well. They just put them on the table but did not refer to them, and they did not introduce the team or what they do. So at the end, the executive summary lacked recommendations, which is a huge concern for me.
I also felt that there was a little bit of defensiveness happening, particularly from Nick.
Correct.
There was almost a threatening kind of thing about being put on the blacklist and that sort of thing. Perhaps that's something that can be taken away from that, you know, that dealing with a difficult client doesn't mean you need to be difficult as well.
Yeah, correct.
Who do you reckon was the star performer in that group, Expert Risk Solutions? By the way, I really don't like it when people refer to themselves as experts. I think it's a little bit arrogant.
For me, definitely Cabello stood out. She came across as being confident but very calm, understanding the seriousness of the situation, but not putting the client into a panic mode. And then very close second would be Keith. He did articulate the solutions very well too, and rescued on a number of occasions, which is what you're looking from a team.
Palisa was kind of not really there. And Nick, I felt, perhaps brought down the team a little bit.
It's just our agenda and our executive summary.
So welcome back. I trust that you won't disappoint us. Please tell us what the name of your group is.
Infinite Risk Solutions.
IRS.
Yes.
Like the American Tax Collection Service. Without further ado, let's get into your executive summary.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Celo Mlojwa. I'm here representing Infinite Risk Solutions. I'm here with my team, Lisa, Mutoda, and Kurt. We're here to discuss your 2017-2018 renewal. So we have a delicate situation in our hands. We have sat down as a team, being a valued client of ours, and thought of recommendations that we'll bring to you. The first recommendation which is not...
Wait, I mean, I think, I mean, you as my broker, you know, we have an understanding. We've got a 2-year agreement. Why are they coming now to cancel the policy?
The agreement was that the sprinkler system would be brought up to date and stand specifications within the 2-year period, and that hasn't happened. So they agreed on the 2-year period, and that was the agreement, and that agreement hasn't been met.
Well, this to me doesn't feel like a...
May I interject for a second, Chester? Could you just wrap up your executive summary, and then I think we can get into this level of detail.
Yeah, because that's what you
Thank you for your question. We'll flesh it out as we go into the detail of the presentation. The first recommendation that we'll propose to you, which is not in effect a recommendation, our recommended solution is to comply with the insurer's risk recommendations and you implement the recommendations that were put in that risk survey that was done 2 years ago. Going on, there are other considerations on the side that we have thought of.
This doesn't really sound like a summary. It sounds more
So
like the full presentation.
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, I got lost, because I thought you were going to just give a summary before you get into your presentation. So that's why I sort of started asking questions.
A bit too detailed. So should we jump forward then into the detail, and you can ask your questions then, Chester?
Yeah. We don't have to outlay capital for the premium. That can alleviate your burden too. As your brokers, we're also willing to enter into commission sacrifice, a 50% commission sacrifice, because your success is our success. So we believe that even that commission can help you to cover the costs related to the sprinkler system.
What is left for us to do is have a discussion, a solutions-based discussion, which we believe this is. So we've asked for this meeting 3 months in advance of our renewal date to try and help the business. And please, we ask you to take it from that standpoint, and hopefully working together we can flesh out a solution that works for you as our client, which is our primary consideration in discussion with the risk carrier.
So instead of paying your full premium upfront annually, you've got this full premium that you pay, and obviously that puts pressure on your cash flow. What you do is you pay it monthly. There is an interest cost, there is a bit of small finance charge, and you've got to take that into consideration, and that you don't have that upfront full force on your cash flow. Then you can pay it over the monthly basis as it comes in, and then use your cash flow instead on the capital expenditure to upgrade that sprinkler system.
Okay, you guys are out of time. Thanks for your presentation. You're dismissed.
Thank you.
Thoughts?
Teamwork. I mean, I think they really worked well as a team.
Strong team. Much stronger team.
They've all got different personalities. There's no disputing that. But they all brought a little bit of themselves. I felt that perhaps at one point it was going a little bit off track, and then Kurt had an amazing ability there to just kind of ground everything. He told you not to dwell on the past, you know, let's move forward. They've got some solutions. And I think whilst the solutions might not be completely workable, there was real innovation there, you know, which we didn't see any of in the previous group.
Correct. I thought there was a better understanding of the situation the client is in. So there was more empathy for the client's particular position.
Yes.
And providing solutions in terms of what they can do to manage the capex.
Matora, I thought he really does have a very succinct way of dealing with things. But again, I think that if I were in a meeting with him, there's not a lot of fire there, you know, which I think you certainly get when you're chatting to Lisa and Sicelo as well. Okay, so you've almost made it through your first task. Is this the best that we can do? You guys have got a long way to go if you want to win this competition. It's task 1, you got to start straight out of the gates. I want it, it's me.
All I would say to you first off is if you're going to run a successful broking business, but you're going to keep rebating all the commission and doing all the services for free, your shareholders are not going to be very happy. Be very, very careful not ever to criticize a client or call their risk a bad risk or being blacklisted or anything like that. You can talk about an insurer's perception of the client's risk, but don't call the client's risk a bad risk.
As a client, I would, some of you were a bit aggressive. The facts are facts. Yes, we don't dispute that, but it's how you deliver the facts.
My biggest disappointment was really the executive summary. Make sure that you deliver on it tomorrow, otherwise we're going to penalize you from end to end. So you guys need to get it right. You just did not get it right. It's still task 1, so you've got a chance to redeem yourselves, but this is the only chance you're going to get.
What I'd like to say is, obviously there can only be one group that wins each task. And at certain points in the presentations, I was thinking to myself, we're probably going to have to pick the one that isn't necessarily the best, but isn't the worst. The winning group for me really focused on innovation. They had some clever ideas, and there was a lot more teamwork in that group and better time management. Well, today, the winning group is infinite risk. Fortunately, nobody's going home today, but don't come in here unprepared again. You're dismissed.
Day 1 of the Insurance Apprentice 2017. Wow, tough.
I feel slightly battered after the feedback and the fact that we actually lost the task. I think it's definitely a good learning curve.
It's good to get some feedback from the judges, vital feedback that is definitely going to be used for the next task.
There's only one shot at this, so if you get this wrong, you could be gone. So at the end of the day, that's what you realize.
Day 1 was fun and intense. It was quite a challenging task. I think we have a lot to take out of this today, a lot of learning to take home and consider.
I'm part of the losing team, so there's something we need to learn, but I'm grateful no one's been sent home.
The judges themselves were very critical, and that's a shock to the system because then it becomes real.
This is like almost a wake-up call to say going home is this fragile. You're like an egg when you're in the insurance apprentice.